Hello, everyone, and welcome to 247 Digitize's Legal Support Services webinar on key insights into master services agreements and statements of work. Before we dive into today's agenda, let me take a moment to introduce 247 Digitize. We are a US-based company headquartered in Chicago, Illinois, with additional offices in India. For over 18 years, our international team has been dedicated to optimizing and executing business processes with excellence. Our core services include legal support, data management, and bookkeeping. My name is Samuel de la Torre, and I serve as the head of marketing at 247 Digitize. With over 16 years of experience in both traditional and digital marketing, I've worked with organizations across the USA, Canada, Europe, Asia, and Latin America in a variety of industries. Joining me today is Gagandeep Kaur, project manager at 247 Digitize. Gagandeep brings over 11 years of experience in legal support services, specializing in managed document review. She has expertly handled complex e-discovery matters across industries, such as financial services, regulatory investigations, and employment-related cases. Her additional expertise includes contract abstraction and repository management. Also with us is Krishna Veni, a seasoned expert in contract lifecycle management. With 15 years of experience, Krishna Veni's expertise spans document review, litigation, and leading large teams. Her dedication to excellence and proven leadership makes her an invaluable asset to our team. Before we begin, please feel free to post any questions in the comment section. We'll address as many as possible during the Q&A session at the end. With that, I'll hand it over to Gagandeep to get us started. Over to you, Gagan.
Thank you, Sam. Before diving into the agenda, let's understand the importance of Master Services Agreement and Statement of Work. MSA and SOW are two critical components in managing IT projects and service contracts. They define the terms, conditions, and expectations between a service provider and the client, ensuring clarity and alignment for successful collaboration. In today's webinar, we will cover Introduction to Master Services Agreement in Information Technology, Key Purposes of MSA, Key Components of MSA, Introduction to Statement of Work in Information Technology, Key Components of SOW, Significant Differences between MSA and SOW. As Sam mentioned towards the end, please feel free to post or ask any questions in the comments box or during the Q&A session. Now, let's understand what is MSA. A Master Services Agreement is a comprehensive contract between a client and a service provider. It establishes the general terms and conditions for their ongoing relationship, providing a framework for multiple future projects or services. For example, suppose a client signs an MSA with a consulting firm for IT services. The MSA specifies extended terms such as service levels, payment structures, and dispute resolution procedures. Each specific project or task under the MSA is then detailed in a separate SOW. The SOW outlines the scope, timelines, deliverables, and cost for that particular project, ensuring clarity and alignment for both parties. Now that we have discussed what an MSA is, KV will walk us through its key purposes. Over to you, KV.
Hi, Gagan. Can you hear me?
Yes, KV, we
Yes,
can hear
KV.
you.
Thank you. I lost the connection for a while, but I'm back. I'm glad. Well, let's talk about the key purposes on the slide. And the first one that you see is establish a long-term relationship. The MSA sets up the framework for an ongoing business relationship, typically covering multiple projects or services. And it also standardizes terms and conditions by defining general terms such as payment schedules, intellectual property ownership, confidentiality, and dispute resolution. The MSA avoids the need for renegotiation of these terms for each new engagement. Once a MSA is in place, each new project or service is governed by its own statement of work, the SOW, that details the specifics but adheres to the broad terms set in the MSA, which means it is simplifying the future contracts. The MSA framework can cover a range of IT services or projects, whether software development, cloud services, IT support, or consulting, without needing to start a contract from scratch each time. The MSA helps identify risks upfront and allocates responsibilities clearly, reducing the potential disputes and misunderstandings in the future. The the other purpose of the MSA is also it reduces friction and delays in starting new projects by providing a pre-agreed set of rules and terms, hence fostering efficient project execution. The legal protection in a MSA ensures that both parties are shielded from unnecessary legal risk, while dispute resolution provides a structured mechanism to resolve disagreements in a fair and efficient manner. So, these are the key purposes that I have gone through a quick view. In the next slide, Gagan and I will walk through the key components of the MSA together. Since it's quite detailed, we will each cover different components. Gagan, would you like to go first?
Yeah, thank you, KV. Now let's discuss the key components of the MSA. Key components are essential for ensuring clarity, protecting both parties' interests, and reducing misunderstandings or legal conflicts. By defining these elements, the MSA provides stability and predictability for successful long term business partnership, especially in IT services and projects. Starting with scope of services, the MSA outlines the broad scope of services to be provided under the agreement. It defines the overall nature of the services and deliverables that the service provider is expected to provide, allowing flexibility for specific projects or tasks to be detailed under separate SOW. Moving to payment terms, the MSA specifies the payment structure, rates, frequency, and methods, ensuring a clear understanding of how payments will be handled for ongoing or future services. Provisions may include milestones, hourly rates, or fixed fees. Next one is confidentiality and data protection. This section is critical in IT agreements to ensure data security and compliance with privacy regulations, example GDPR or CCPA. The MSA specifies how confidential information such as trade secrets, customer data, or proprietary software will be handled, stored, and protected. Intellectual property rights. This component outlines the ownership and usage rights of intellectual property created or exchanged during the agreement. It specifies whether the client or the service provider retains ownership of software designs, code, or documentation to avoid disputes. So, coming to term and termination, the MSA specifies the agreement's duration, whether fixed or ongoing, and conditions for termination, such as breach of terms, non payment, or mutual consent. For instance, an MSA may be signed between a software development company and a client, establishing the general terms for ongoing development, support, and maintenance services. Performance standards and service level agreements. The MSA may include service level agreements that outline expectations for service quality, response times, uptime guarantees, and issue resolution, holding the service provider accountable for their performance. Liability and indemnification. This section defines the limits of liability to protect each party from legal and financial repercussions arising from other parties' negligence, breaches, or wrongful acts. It may also include indemnification clauses where one party agrees to compensate the other for damages or losses caused by specific actions. KV will now cover the remaining key components.
Thank you, Gagan. That was fast. Please take a breath.
Right, KV, I'll have a sip of water. Thank you.
No worries. Now, talking about the eighth point, which is the dispute resolution. This component specifies the procedures for resolving conflicts or disagreements, including mediation, arbitration, or litigation processes in a structured way to handle disputes that may arise. It also helps to avoid lengthy legal battles and ensuring that conflicts are resolved in a timely and efficient manner. The first major on the screen that you see, ninth point, specifies situations in which a party is excused from fulfilling their contractual obligations due to unforeseen and unavoidable events such as natural disasters, war, or other extraordinary circumstances. The governing law and jurisdiction is crucial. So, here the MSA will specify which jurisdiction's laws will govern the agreement and where legal disputes will be resolved. Is it through the, I mean, which would be the court location or arbitration venue, so on, so forth. Change management and amendments section covers the process for making changes to the agreement. It outlines how modifications to the services, timelines, or terms will be handled and the formal process for amendments, hence, minimizing confusion or misunderstandings. Warranties and representations may include warranties or guarantees regarding the quality of the service provided. It provides assurances to the client that the service provider will deliver services in a competent and professional manner and that they have the legal right to enter into the agreement. Now, discussing about the subcontracting and outsourcing, this clause defines and provides clarity on whether the service provider is allowed to subcontract or outsource any part of the work to third parties and under what conditions, ensuring the client has oversight over who performs the work. The last one is the miscellaneous clauses, which include various standard contractual provisions which are, may or may not be considered in a MSA. But still, I would like to highlight few of them. The entire agreement. The MSA represents the full understanding between the parties superseding previous agreements. Severability is if one party or one part of the agreement is invalid, the rest remains enforceable. Assignment is the ability to transfer rights or obligations under the agreement. Non-solicitation is very common, so that it prohibits either party from soliciting or hiring each other's employees during and after the term of the contract. Now that we have concluded this slide of the key components in the MSA, let's move on to the SOW. Gagan, back to you.
Thank you, KV. Let's understand what is SOW. A statement of work is a detailed project-specific document that outlines the deliverables, tasks, timeline, and other specifics for a particular project within the framework of a broader agreement, such as a master services agreement, and ensure both parties have aligned expectations. It is a critical part of project management and contract execution, especially in industries like information technology, construction, consulting, and other services. In an IT project, the SOW may specify the features to be developed, the software components to be built, and any integration work needed. Example, when the client needs a system upgrade, an SOW is created for that project, specifying the exact tasks, timelines, deliverables, and resources required for the upgrade. The SOW is governed by the terms laid out in the MSA, but provides the specificity needed for that particular project to succeed. Now, KV will discuss the key components of SOW.
Welcome back, guys, again, and thanks, Gagan. So let's begin with the project objectives, colored pink on the screen. So this section outlines the high-level objectives and goals of the project, clearly stating the purpose of the work and what is expected to be achieved. Let me use a customer relationship management system as an example while discussing the key components of this statement of work. So, as an example for the project objectives, let's say develop a custom CRM system that integrates with the existing database and enhances user experience. The second one is the scope of work, and it defines the specific tasks, activities, and services that will be performed during the project. So this section outlines what is included and, just as importantly, what is excluded from the project scope. As an illustration, develop software modules for customer data entry, reporting, and user authentication. So these are in scope for the SOW. Then timeline and milestones are the sections where it outlines the project's timeline, including key milestones, deadlines, and dates for deliverables. It often includes a project schedule or a Gantt chart. Let me back this up with an example. Project kickoff on March 1st, design phase to be completed by March 15th, testing phase to begin on April 10th, and final deployment by March or May 15th. So these are certain timelines and milestones that have been defined. The fourth section is deliverables, and this section lists the tangible and intangible outcomes of the project. Each deliverable is typically associated with specific deadlines and milestones. Example, deliver a fully functional prototype within 6 weeks, or submit a user guide for the CRM system upon final deployment. There's a contingency. Roles and responsibilities. This section defines the roles and responsibilities of both the service provider as well as the client. It outlines who is responsible for what in terms of resources, approvals, decisions, and tasks. Example, the client will provide access to the database and any necessary documentation, whereas the service provider will design the CRM system and integrate the features. Then let's talk about the payment terms and financial structure. This section details the payment terms, including how much will be paid, the payment schedule, and any conditions tied to the payments. Conditions, example, upon completion of a milestone. And another example would be 50% payment upon project initiation, 30% upon prototype delivery, and 20% upon the final deployment. Acceptance criteria is the section that defines the conditions under which deliverables will be considered complete and acceptable by the client. It specifies how each deliverable will be reviewed, tested, and approved again by the client. Example, let's take the same example of the CRM. The CRM system must pass functional testing for all modules, meet user requirements, and be approved by the client within 5 business days of submission. The last one, the 8th point, is the section that outlines resources such as personal, equipment, software, so on and so forth, that will be needed for the project and specifies which party is responsible for providing them. Example, the client will provide access to its existing database and servers. The service provider will provide the development team and necessary software licenses. Now that we have concluded the SOW, let's explore the key differences in the next slide and determine which option is better for a successful business. Gagan, I'll need your help. So, ready for a kickoff?
Yes, KV, let's do it.
You begin with the MSA, please.
Yeah, starting with MSA. MSA is a strategic high-level framework that outlines the general terms of a partnership.
Right. Whereas the SOW is a project specific agreement.
MSA defines the foundational terms that govern the overall relationship between parties.
SOW outlines the deliverables, timeline, and tasks specific to a particular project.
MSA outlines the terms for a long-term ongoing partnership.
The SOW is focused on defining the scope and details of a single project.
MSA is more general and broad, setting the foundation of various agreements.
SOW is more detailed and specific, outlining precise project requirements and expectations.
MSA includes key clauses covering intellectual property, confidentiality, and dispute resolution.
Well, for the SOW, a detailed breakdown of project goals and requirements are provided in the statement of work. What is your conclusion, Gagan, after reviewing the key differences between the MSA and the SOW?
Thank you, KV, for that insightful question. After reviewing the key differences between the MSA and SOW, my conclusion is that while both play essential roles in client service provider relationships, they serve distinct yet complementary purposes. Let me elaborate. Both MSA and SOW are crucial for setting clear expectations and defining the relationship between IT service providers and clients. While a SOW can sometimes include terms found in an MSA, it does not fully replace the broader coverage of a master services agreement for longer term or multi project relationships. The MSA ensures that all subsequent SOWs follow the same legal framework and operational expectations, streamlining negotiations for future projects. As more SOWs are created under the same MSA, it becomes easier to manage multiple projects with similar terms while addressing the unique needs of each one. So, thank you all. This concludes today's topic on MSA and SOW in the IT industry. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you very much, KV and Gagan. It was a very insightful presentation.
Thank you.
We will now give some time for attendees to have a chance to ask questions in the comments section. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, you can comment down there in the video, and we'll read it live. And also, as we wrap up today's session, I would like to remind everyone that if we don't get to your questions during the live Q&A, or if you watch this video at a later time, you can feel free to reach us out using the contact details that I'm going to display here. And you can also visit our website, www.247digitize.com, for more information on our services. Okay, so let's give it a couple seconds. We'll see if anyone has any comments. Once again, thank you very much for watching this video, whether it's now or a later time. I think that was enough time. We don't have any questions right now. I want to remind you, please, that this webinar will be available for replay on our YouTube channel and also our LinkedIn page in the event section, as well as our previous webinars. Be sure to stay connected with us for updates on any upcoming webinars. And we want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. We appreciate your participation, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.